Hello and welcome to another painting tutorial. My friend Miss Margaret sent me these clips. I don't know the name of them right off the bat. This brand is X-Acto clip. It's kind of wider than the binder clips, and they sit a little bit lower. So I'm gonna try and see how they are with stretching it. They do cover a wider area, and if you ever seen those big old drawing boards that they'll use in art schools, they often have those wider clips attached to it. So we'll give this one a try. These ones a try and see how they are. But I'm grateful that I have a friend that would send me something like that to try out. So I really appreciate that, Miss Margaret. So today we'll follow the usual pattern of wetting the paper and then come up with a plan with what we want to paint. I seem to have misplaced my ink brush. Just wet this 11 by 15, 11 by 14 quarter sheet of Stonehenge aqua paper. The reason I kind of say 11 by 14, 11 by 15 interchangeably is that the size is approximately 11 by 15, but it's meant to be underneath a mat that'll have an opening for an 11 by 14 paper painting. And those openings are actually a little bit smaller than 11 by 14. Okay, so the paper is wet. We're gonna pick up the palette and see what we want to mess around with today. I am debating doing another one of those kind of tonalist two-tone, playing with the Venetian red and the sap green. I haven't been enjoying that process a lot. It's it's that fun kind of just additive, subtractive, creating shapes in a landscape from it. Though I don't want these videos to become too repetitive for y'all. I'd like to have something new with them each time. So I will go with that, the sap and the Venetian, even though I said that I don't have the repetition too much with the videos. But I think this time we'll focus on a waterway perspective, kind of like the last video where I was just talking about the recession and perspective of objects. So we'll see if we can get that happening within it. We'll play around with other colors added in. I think last time we used phthalo blue to mix in and darken up some areas, and we used some cerulean blue in the sky. Maybe we'll play around and let some other colors start to appear and be utilized within this, and we'll see what type of harmony we can get. That's the thing, when you use a minimal amount of colors, it's a lot easier to achieve a color harmony throughout the painting, because there's not really too much I guess color variation taking place. But it so this will be the experiment to see what we can add to it, what can work with it, what can switch things around. So you can see the paper starting to buckle, and clean off the edge of this brush. Let's see what we can get flattened out. I try not to use my fingers, mainly because the oil's on your hand. Okay, some people that do the boards upright, and I think I've mentioned this in the past, that's an easier way to grab and pull the paper flat. I believe if you use a 300-pound paper, it's unnecessary, but with the fast and loose painting style and this size paper, I don't think 300-pound is necessary, and it gets quite expensive, the 300-pound paper. All right, so usually with these, we'll take a mixture of the sap green, the Venetian red, and it's going to mix up a brown for us, greenish, brownish red. We're going to have a little bit of each on the brush. And then we kind of let our shape form and our masses. I'm going to move my horizon line. Let's move it up high. I haven't done a high horizon line in a long time. And we're going to have minimal sky within it. And we'll use this to kind of play around with a waterway. I'm just going to recede, get smaller. And this will be my waterway in here. And I'll have a high grass line or tree line back here. I have a fresh, clean paper towel. So it's going to duck back and cut back here. So we're kind of just planning it out, playing around. There will be a little bit more flattening taking place. And let's see, so waterway, I'm just doing this to kind of lift up a little bit, just to kind of get an idea how I want to move. Far distance. I'll have just a little bit of light in this one. I wonder if we'll even put any blue in the sky. Light in the sky, I mean. Could put the base of a group of trees right up here, and they'll come off the edge. Maybe we'll wind up having another tree right up in here. Maybe breaking up over this one. And it's kind of just sketching with the brush, just letting shapes take place. I am mixing a darker concentration now. Let's see. So we'll tap into, so I said we'll play around with some other colors in this mixture. I think we'll do a little bit of ultramarine into this mix, so we'll see what happens with that. Okay, we're getting an interesting, I don't know if this mix is showing up. This is the ultramarine mix. So it's changing that green push that back there. Okay. So that's an interesting variation. So it looks like the ultramarine would work with this one, with this mix. This is that underside of the grass on the edge, adding some variation in tone. Let's see. Just flatten this out. I'm not getting the best flattening taking place at the moment, and I apologize for that. I'm just not used to these clips. There we go. All right, let's see. The rigger there. Let's soften up this top of the trees a little bit. And we could come back and forth and wet that and replay around with it if we want. We could start adding texture back in there, but I think I want to experiment and see if we could get another variation of a dark green with these. So here's the Venetian red, sap green. This is my phthalo blue. Phthalo blue, I think last time I made this mixture, I said it kind of felt more like the phthalo green. There's a little bit more, best way for me to describe is like a menthol-y, like Vicks Vapor Rub type color whenever you use that phthalo blue. It helps you achieve darks. There is some variation between this and the ultramarine. If I was to play around with it, I'm sure I'd get a lot more difference. Here it is with more Venetian red. We'll feed some in just to see how they look. Bringing this embankment, I guess that's the word for it, up and over. Perspective wise with dots, and I think this is a good point to talk about, you're gonna have them more en masse and together, and then as you get closer you'll have more distance between them. I remember watching a video of a watercolorist on YouTube. He only had like 5 paintings up, but he was videos up. Really great painter. I want to see more of his stuff, and I want to find it again. When I find out his name, I'll mention it. He was doing like a house on the beach, and the house was in the corner. And as he came forward with the rocks, all he did was just kind of dot across, increase the gaps, make the dots larger, and it just gave the amazing perspective illusion of the rocks on the beach. It's just fantastic. I don't know if he used a hake. I think he used, I don't know if they call it like a squirrel mop brush. So that was a phthalo blue added into this limited palette. So far, sap green, Venetian red, and phthalo blue is what we've, and ultramarine. Yeah, I don't know if I said that. Okay, let's we can start playing around in here right now. This is where I'm just mixing with the brush. Someone had asked me, do I mix with the hake or do I mix with the brush? I'll do that interchangeably depending on what stage that I'm in. I don't really have a set pattern, like, oh, in the beginning I'll use the hake for my mixture, just because it's going directly from the hake onto the paper. then at the rigger stage, I'll either use what's already on the palette or kind of grab it. I often feel that I have to grab with the rigger and remix to get the darker concentrations. And that might be because at this stage, or when I get to the rigger, I want darker concentrations with this style. Now, we'll play around with the lifting and the texture here. We'll open up some areas to the background light. And then, of course, we're going to have darker down the bottom. So this is just the sap green and Venetian red. And the purpose of this video, we decided, was to experiment and add in ultramarine. Use that ultramarine into the mix to see what kind of darks we can get. And then phthalo blue to push the darkers. I could even play around. Here's the phthalo blue. Oh, that's, see. Look how vibrant that is. Mixing Venetian red in to kind of mellow it out. The intensity of this mix right now is not kind of flowing with things. It might be because it's a little too blue, but it might work. I need a lighter mix. We'll go back to ultramarine. And the reason I'm saying I need a lighter mix is that I want some stuff right back in here to help this corner of land sit in front of the bend. So the bend is very subtle. And even if it doesn't show up in the end, I want to know in my mind that it's there. I think our paper's still wet to bring down shadows, which usually I do a lot of early on. As I put my masses in, I'll put the shadow masses in as well. But I'll have to differentiate and put darks along that edge. That's that phthalo blue mix. I'm just using the side of the rigger. Just dapping it in, use it for spontaneity. Switch back to the hake. Ultramarine into the mix, but I'm already going to have phthalo blue on the brush, so it's kind of just now just pushing with the 4 colors. This is to start creating that shape here. Let me open that up a little bit more. So I'm letting it come out the water, almost as if there's a little divot or fork. but the whole main thing is that it's receding and getting smaller. And I could use the idea of like foliage and shadows to push that shape. So even if the water is wider right here, I can have foliage over it to push it narrower. And this is just from my mind, this stuff, this painting, but to make it seem realistic. I get Venetian red, phthalo blue. Get some sap green, push it away from that red. So I'm just trying to get it dark here. I could also play around with scraping at this stage. I think we're dry enough. I am going to do some scraping though if I do that foreground tree I talked about. It might not be dry enough. We could get some light shapes with it. Let's see, now I'm kind of just pedaling around, so I think I'll need to go to the next stage in a moment. That's a little too phthalo bluey, especially right there in the middle of the paper. Okay, let me wet this. Let's get a little cerulean blue. It's gonna be a little muddy because the brush isn't perfectly clean. The water's not perfectly clean, but a little cerulean blue up in here. And we can bring a little bit of that cerulean blue down into the water. Let's see. We'll put, we might be a little too lopsided if we put more trees on this side. Let me stand up and take a look. Tree might work here. Coming up and across. Right here. Let's put a tree on this side. Let's do that. And now I want to mix dark. Just going back and forth between those three colors. So between that, so we added a the cerulean in the sky. it skirted a little too close to the edge of that background tree. But in the end, I think our foliage is going to wind up covering a lot of that background tree. So we did a lot of playing with it, but you might not see most of that tree as we explore this one, which is okay. I think that with watercolor, you're building up a scene, especially a scene like this, when it's made up, you're giving life to everything. So I'm gonna scrape along this tree. Maybe a little bit of rock scrapes right here to open that up. Let's shrink that. And we'll put foliage in. So I'm just scraping, just having fun. I can drag out off of this wet stuff just to get textures and shapes. Let's go a little bit. Oh, I'm gonna have to dry off my brush. I'm gonna go back in the direction of the ultramarine. I'm using that, like, I'm not the best with the cool and warm color concept, but I'm using that to kind of set back a little bit more. All the phthalo blue being darker and whatnot, trying to use that to push things closer. I feel like that we might have to do a dry off in a moment. We haven't done any drying yet, so we do wind up covering a lot of that background trees we played around with. So right there, the lesson learned is that when planning it out, I had cut right along the edge, and the foliage for this one was lining up directly with that foliage back there, and it just will cover it up. So we would have to think about how we can do the texture for those trunks back there to give the idea of trees that are hiding back there. Have some various bird holes like this opening here. We could see the sky. Back here maybe have openings but have the more green like that. So that's something to pursue in the future and to think about. That's a video for y'all right there, trees in front of trees. So we'll think about how we can do that in a future video. Trees in front of trees. Just scraping some shapes. Let's get phthalo blue on the mix now. Try to push darker. Phthalo blue and the Venetian red is going to give us a purple. And try to get some green in there. Getting some darker. One thing artists talk about a lot in art books and videos and all that, I've noticed that one thing that I think there's a big general consensus for landscape painters is that they are not overly fond of green. I'm not a fan of green personally. Like favorite color wise, I think I like purples, things like that. And a lot of artists in their books will have anecdotes about people say, how do you handle the green in the scene, or how do you handle that? And I think we're moving in an interesting direction with these videos of creating different greens and getting greens to work together and not having that splash of monotony. Though my favorite green is the green underneath the trees, like in foliage and all that after a rain. And I guess there's a slight darkness there too. That is like a beautiful, like just green and overall feel to things. So with this palette, we used the sap green as a convenience color essentially, and as the main color because we're using so much of it. Another thing we'll try to look into and explore is how to mix sap green. We'll see if there's anything that we can mix to get close to that. But adding Venetian red to it, adding the blues that we did, the phthalo blue and the ultramarine to the sap green, we got a lot of interesting variety within the green tones itself. We have not much going on over here. We could add a little brush and whatnot, and this will dry lighter as we dry. We still haven't done any blow drying at all. Now let's come back to the big focus of this one, is the shape of this water. So we had it open up. We can use our scrubby. See if we can change some shapes to make sure we have that recession. We do have a recession back. It works pretty good. I'm just looking through the view, the camera itself. See, so we have the wideness here. A little skip behind the tree that continues along. Let's see, we might have to see how, perspective wise, you'd want it to go like that, to narrow. So let's play around a little bit with that. We don't want a perfectly straight line with it. We want ins and outs and divots. This is just a light watery mix. And the lightness of that will help that recede. This is very last minute additions. What I'm essentially doing, and I didn't intend to do this, was create a tunnel for this water to pass down. Down into reflections and water. It may be time to just dry it off and finish it. Let's see if we want to open up anything in the sky right here. Let's dry it off and take a look. All right, if you have earbuds on, I'm about to start. Now, for those who are watching on YouTube after I upload this, I live stream these videos, and there's people that actually come into the chat room and say hello, and somebody just did that. So, hello, Bite Size Mira, how's it going? Down the line, what I'd like to do is I have links in the comments below for the Twitch where you can watch this live streamed, but I'd like to have some sort of announcement system down the line so you guys can watch and ask questions in real time. Now, we could call this one done, especially since, we're painting fast and loose. We could play around with the far side of these tree trunks and darken them up. Let's go with the Venetian red and the phthalo blue. Oh, and for people that watch on the Twitch on the live streaming, you could find all my videos on YouTube on Andrew Broussard Watercolors. I need to have a way to make a link for that. So I'm mixing ultramarine into this mix as well. So this is going to make a dark purple between those. Excuse me, put a little bit of green in it. And this will be the far side of these trees. I don't want to do like straight lines. You want to break it up and get textures. So use all parts of the rigger brush. And you can take a paper towel and dab and change that variety up. You just want everything to kind of flow together. And now that we have this dark, we could add some darker tree branches. But of course, this is going to dry a little bit lighter than it looks like now. So we have that that shift that takes place. And some people, when watercoloring, will, you see somebody in their tutorials or in their steps, they go layer by layer. They'll paint, dry, and build that darkness up. But whenever I do that, I get overzealous and push very muddy. So that was darkening up the shadow side of some of these trunks. You could also take the hake and add that texture on the bottom. I'm not going to add it to this one, but if you had your buff Titan, that, or mixed with a little bit of the green, is great for a textural effect with trees and moths, and that's fun as well. All right. Oh, yep. I have a YouTube channel, Andrew Broussard Watercolors. In fact, what I should do is have a piece of paper where I write my name on it and then show it right here. So let's do this now. So whenever I'm doing these paintings, I can say, here's my YouTube channel. I just don't know how to link the Twitch to the Andrew Broussard Watercolors to the YouTube page. Also, for those of you that are watching and like painting and painting in this style with the hake brushes, I'm very active on what's called the Ron Ranson Disciples Facebook page. Ron Ranson Disciples. There's a lot of people that paint in this style with the hake brushes. We have a lot of beginners on there, and people are always sharing their work. It's very positive. A lot of the admins and other people paint on there. I have YouTube videos. They have people that have been painting for years that share their tips and techniques. It's just a fantastic, it's one of the best Facebook pages I think that are out there for watercolors. Ron Ranson Disciples. So give that a try, and check out my other YouTube videos if you want. So I'm going to do the last dry off. We'll put it at the mat, we'll sign it, and we'll call it a day. Oh, cool. So the person in the chat is telling me how I can do that. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll figure out how to connect it. Now here's an 11 by 14 opening to put over it, and I'll move the camera in a second. You don't see. I'll sign it. I'll probably do another painting today. I took off from work. It seems like it's been the year of like sinus and respiratory issues for me. I have been just under the weather so much. So I'll try to do another video later on today. And to sum it up, the main focus of this one was trying to get that recession take place with the water. So even though, and we're doing this from our memory, our imagination, if we have some wider areas, we want to narrow the vertical aspect as we go back. And this was just experimenting with sap green, Venetian red, ultramarine blue, and phthalo blue, and then just a light wash of cerulean right up in there in the sky. So I hope you all enjoyed, and hopefully I can have another video up for you all soon. Have a great day.